All right, good evening, folks. We're going to start. Welcome to the Town of Mount Pleasant Planning Board meeting, regularly scheduled for August 19th, 2024, 7:30 p.m. We have business items. Am I cutting out?
Check.
Sometimes it's good that I'm cut out. All right, can you guys hear me? All right. So we have business items. Here's the agenda tonight. We have business items, continuing applications, which means applications that we've discussed in the past that are not ready for a public hearing, and they're looking to get to a public hearing, and they may or may not be ready at this point. We have one new application, and we have one item on the agenda that's over here that is actually adjourned. That's Town Board referral for 75 Kensico Avenue North, which is adjourned for tonight. The applicant asked to adjourn it. So we have essentially 3 items. So first up is business items. And again, if you'd like to take an agenda, they're on the front table. First up on the agenda is business items, adoption of resolution of approval of site plan application PSP 23-001, demolition of existing structure, construction of a mixed-use building, ground floor retail, first and second floor apartments, 4 units in total, 146 Broadway, Thornwood, New York, 112.9-1-7, 164 Broadway, LLC. This is near, just to orient everybody, near the Hawthorne Car Wash, that building over there. So we've reviewed this application. We've had a public hearing on this application. We've had quite a bit of discussion on this property. We asked the consultant to draft a resolution, which he has done and submitted to the board for the review. And we are here to review that resolution to see if there's any comments or corrections or thoughts on that. So with that being said, we have this resolution. Any thoughts, comments, or questions on 146 Broadway, Thornwood, New York?
2 separate resolutions, Mr. Chairman.
Which are two separate resolutions.
It's a site plan. I'll make a motion, we accept the site plan.
Motion from Joan.
Second.
Second from John. Walter.
Aye.
Jane. John.
Aye.
The other's a neg deck, isn't it?
It is.
It should have come first then.
Didn't I?
Okay, I'll make a resolution.
Well, hold on.
Did I? I didn't vote.
You didn't vote. No, nor did I. So Joan.
Yay.
Yay. And Jim, aye. Yes, we're good. So now the second one. There you go.
Okay, we'll make a motion that we issue a negative declaration.
Motion from Joan. Do we have
Second.
Second from Walter. Walter.
Aye.
Jane. Aye. John.
Aye.
Joan.
Aye.
And aye for me. Okay, so that's the completion of 146 Broadway.
Mr. Chairman, I just point out that that's the first application that you've approved under the new Hamlet zoning.
Yes, and we're looking forward to more of those. Okay, next up is a continuing application. Again, this is stuff that's come before us before. We've reviewed things, and now they're coming up to us again to talk further about the application. So again, it's number 1 on the agenda. You can have it over there. Proposed Brighton Avenue and Bradhurst Avenue development of vacant parcels to construct a 3,000 plus or minus square foot landscaping supply and equipment storage barn, a 200 square foot detached office building. That's actually not there anymore. We got to take that off, by the way. With driveway, parking area, stormwater mitigation facilities, landscape screen areas. Application site plan SP 23-07. Subdivision is ST 23-04. Steep slopes SS 23-13. Location is vacant parcel on Brighton and Bradhurst Avenue, Hawthorne, New York. Section plot line number is 112.9-1-2 and 3. Zone CNR and R10. Owner applicant is Brighton Avenue Properties LLC. Engineer and architect KSCJ Consulting. And I know who you are, but for the record, can you state who you are?
Sure. Dave Sessions with KSCJ Consulting. Mark and Gina DeFabio are here, as well as Vinny DePasquale, the owners of the property. We were last before your board on June 6th.
Okay, just if
Yeah.
anybody likes to see this, you can move up closer if you want to move. And you can pivot that a little bit if you like. Though it's not a public hearing, I know there's some folks here tonight that want to be aware of what's going on. thank you for making the adjustment.
Yeah, can the board see
We
this?
can see, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
We were last before your board on June 6th. We addressed a few outstanding comments before the board was prepared or comfortable to, why don't I stand over here? Comfortable to set a public hearing date. At that June 6th meeting, the board set the public hearing date for July 15th. We did not, for the public hearing, we did not have the public hearing. The applicant, after a little bit of deliberation, decided to adjourn that meeting and kind of rethink the proposal. And at this point, the applicant has decided to not pursue having Lawn Green occupy this property. We heard the public, we heard the board, we know the concerns, and we decided, okay, the board and the public have concerns with several things. Let's reevaluate, and Lawn Green has decided to now back out. They're not going to pursue this as their headquarters, at least at this point. Lawn Green's been in business for 35 some odd years, has been a member of the community for 35 years in Mount Pleasant, but they're going to be seeking business elsewhere. They still want to pursue site plan approval for basically the same building, the same layout, but they did hear the concerns, and we're proposing certain modifications to the program. They are willing to prohibit dump trucks under any business circumstance. No dump trucks will be utilizing the property. No trailers. There were never tractor trailers proposed for the property, for the record, but landscape trailers, meaning maybe you've got a pickup truck with a landscape trailer in the back. I know the public and the board were concerned about trailers coming in and out, the sight line issues, so on and so forth. So they are willing to prohibit any trailers from utilizing the property, no matter what, who ultimately occupies the property. As we've always said, there'll be no construction or contractor materials stored outside on the property. We've always said that on the record and so forth, but we are committing to that, and however the board or Pat or in a resolution ultimately, no storage of materials outside, period. And we are also proposing a deed restriction which will run with the property on the portion of the property indicated in yellow here. This, you might recall, is the portion of the flag portion of the residential property that eventually comes out here into the rest of the residential property. We are still proposing the lot line change. It benefits the use ultimately to have that lot line change with respect to the rear yard setbacks, but we are committing to a deed restriction that will run with the land that prohibits any commercial related activity, whether that be materials or I don't know what else could be stored back there commercial related, especially considering the fact that the slopes are so significant back there. It physically couldn't happen anyway, but the deed restriction is a legal encumbrance, if you will, on the property. So they are committed to doing that. So if Brighton Avenues Properties LLC ultimately sells the property, or they're leasing to someone else, everyone knows going forward that this will be restricted. basically, those are the commitments that we're willing to, everything else remains the same. The building location, the setbacks, the parking, the drainage, everything that Pat and Dave Smith have reviewed with respect to the engineering, everything stays the same. But the applicant realized that there was, significant opposition, and we wanted to move this forward. So we're willing to commit to those 3 or 4 stipulations. And so with respect to the site plan, nothing else has changed. This board was comfortable enough, I guess, on June 6th to set the public hearing. I'm assuming, we're hoping that the board is as comfortable, if not more comfortable, with these with these changes to set the public hearing for sometime in September, and that's really what we're here for.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from board members?
What is this has been asked before, but let's review it. What is the advantage to moving the lot line so that becomes in the commercial zone, basically?
In the residential zone, I think you mean.
That yellow part's in the residential zone.
Yeah.
And is it going to be incorporated into the commercial zone, or you're just having...
No.
You're having a piece of property that now is in both the commercial and the residential zone? Is that what you're telling me?
The yellow portion of the property will actually be within the residential zone.
Right. So the zoning doesn't change?
The zoning does not
It just becomes
change.
part of this parcel?
Correct. The zoning district boundary is this, I don't know if you can see it, this
Yeah, I
red
can see
dashed line that runs, that doesn't change. The zone doesn't change, the district boundary line does not change. It's just that the lot in the commercial district is being expanded 20 feet into the residential district.
And that does what for you?
That helps with a setback from the building.
Right.
And quite frankly, if it wasn't here, the building would be forced to be right up, a lot closer to the road. This area of the site is very steeply sloped. It's a narrow lot to begin with.
Right. So it makes for a better design of the lot.
Absolutely. And it helps with circulation as far as emergency vehicles coming in, being able to turn around in the event of an emergency. It doesn't have much to do with the business operation as it does to do with safety
And
and
just the configuration of the lot.
configuration, and circulation.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
Sir, is the public hearing closed on this already?
It never happened. Oh,
So now they're coming for a public hearing?
Not yet.
Well, there was a public hearing for the 15th, I think, of July, and it was postponed, and then the application was adjusted, and now they're proposing that adjustment to us.
Yeah, this is really just a, hey, look, we're making a change. We didn't want to assume that you would still want to hold the public hearing without knowing about this first.
Gotcha.
So this is really just a, we're making some changes. We wanted to come before you first.
Making some
Now we
dramatic
can,
changes, which is, good for everybody, I guess.
pardon me?
Making some dramatic changes, which is what everybody was looking for.
We hope so, yes. I mean, don't get me wrong. The dream, the desire for the owners was to continue their business operation that they started 30-some-odd years ago in the town of Mount Pleasant. They thought they found the perfect site. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. So that's, that is what it is. So we're moving on now and trying to get something else approved.
So what are we doing here, Pat? We've got to schedule a public hearing?
Yep.
Their next step, because the project's changed, we'd have to renotice a public hearing, so you'd have to choose to do that if you're ready to do that.
And from a town staff perspective, with the adjustments and the variance, are we ready from a staff perspective?
Nothing changes. So the physical configuration of the site, all of the improvements on the site, there's no change. It's how the site would be used.
Right, and I would assume if we do schedule a public hearing, one thing we have to be prepared to answer, which I think you would have, is the variance between one versus the other, meaning traffic or, comparison, and some of the differences between A versus B.
Okay, I'm sorry, you mentioned the word variance, immediately my mind went to
I
zoning.
saw your head do that. No, I'm not the ZBA.
No.
The variance between Plan A versus Plan B, some sort of
Right,
analysis of A versus B,
Yeah.
like the benefit or detriment from your perspective. Obviously, you're always going to do from your perspective, but what is the difference between Plan A versus Plan B?
Yeah, I mean, we'll address that in the future, but I
Yes.
can address it very briefly here as well.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, Lawn Green is a landscape maintenance company.
Yeah.
This doesn't preclude another lawn maintenance landscape company from coming in and occupying the site. It does preclude that landscape company from coming in and utilizing dump trucks or trailers or storage of materials outside, which was basically part and parcel of what Lawn Green does.
Yep.
They can't operate without the dump trucks, without the trailers, and without, so Lawn Green is out, another company can come in, similar company, or maybe a contractor, maybe an electrical contractor. In fact, Vinny, who's part owner of the company, I believe you've got an electrical contracting business, Vinny? Drywall contracting business. That could work nicely here. Same thing, some box trucks, some vehicles that would utilize the property exactly the same, all storage inside, no big trailers, no dump trucks, right? No residual garbage or gravel or anything that might have been left over from a job that would be entering the site.
Yep.
So it's a cleaner operation, but it's essentially the same type of operation, obviously with an office component. They both need the office component, and that would be built in the mezzanine upstairs in the building.
Okay.
That's
So we're not here to approve or disapprove the application in of itself, right? We're here to say, did they dot the i's and did they cross the t's, and did they dot the i's and cross the t's, and are we ready to present this to the public, where I would encourage the public, if they have comments, to comment and come to the meetings and do everything that they have been doing. So Pat, it sounds like we are dotted the i's and crossed the t's.
As we did in July with the change of use.
Correct. So with that being said, I myself am enthusiastic to get this to the public so the public can comment, because I know they want to comment.
I'd make a motion to go to public hearing?
We have a motion from John,
Second.
second from Joan. Walter.
Aye.
Jane. John. Joan.
Aye.
Jim. Aye. So we are scheduling a public hearing on this.
great, thank you. And
Okay?
Carolyn will let us know. what's
Caroline
available.
is like the Wizard of Oz, like the person behind the curtain. She knows how to do it all.
She is behind the curtain.
So.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Okay, next up is a new application. Number 2, proposed 67 Leroy Road. Mitigate the disturbance of the wetlands during construction of an addition, which is part of a previously approved steep slopes application. Application, wetland application number W24-03, location 67 Leroy Road, Chappaqua, New York. Section plot number is 99.6-2-18.1. Zone R40. Owner and applicant is Kevin Orzini. Engineer architect is Alan Pilch. Welcome, and state all who you are for the record when you have a moment and you get your stuff organized out there. It's a lot to do when you get here. You got to set up the stand, and you got to get the mic going, and a lot to do. Just grab that mic and just state your name and all that for the record.
That's a start. You can hear me? Yes, I can hear
Yes.
myself. I'm Alan Pilch from ALP Engineering. We were here a couple of weeks ago, and I'll say we did submit, and hopefully everyone had seen it, the wetland permit application This is with regard to the, I'll call it erroneous, for lack of a better term, installation of about 100 lineal feet of silt fence in the wetland buffer. I'll just sort of explain the property. Again, the driveway from Leroy Road, which is here, north is to the right, this direction. The existing house is here. This is the garage addition, which is being constructed presently. There will be a future pool at the south end of the property as well. And the silt fence, which was originally to be installed immediately behind the garage so that it was outside of the wetland buffer, was not done that way at all. Instead, the contractor, for whatever reason, installed it, say 20 feet further along in the wetland buffer. That's what happened. And that silt fence is still there. The additional silt fence has actually been installed along the wetland buffer. Additional silt fence has been installed at the not toe of the slope, the crest where the slope drops down here, and also over on the south side of the garage. So there's a couple lines of additional silt fence which have actually been installed on the slope at present. And so the process to, so at the moment the silt fence is there. It has been maintained.
2 silt fences.
There's 2 lines of silt fence. So
Right,
the
I got
silt
it.
fence that was installed in the
I got
wetland buffer. Plus there's a silt fence immediately behind the garage and extending up essentially to the north of the garage as well, which has been installed. That one is completely outside of the wetland buffer. But both have been maintained. And I actually was at the property this evening prior to coming here just to check on it myself, and saw that there was previously some accumulated sediment on that silt fence in the buffer that has been carefully removed. What I saw, and so I'll just say the procedure for restoration of this silt fence, which I guess is going to stay up during the entire period of construction, which I'll just say it acts as an additional trap for sediment. If it were to get past the silt fence, which is installed, as I say, immediately adjacent to the garage and at the toe and along the wetland buffer line, it does act that way. But the procedure is outlined on the drawings would be to remove it when the conditions are dry. It's going to be done totally by hand, not with any mechanical equipment, any gasoline or diesel powered equipment, entirely by hand. When the silt fence is removed, as you well know, the silt fence is installed by cutting literally a narrow trench and placing the silt fence in, then putting the soil back adjacent to it. So when you pull it out, you sometimes have a little trench which remains. The trench is usually just a few inches wide, but any accumulated sediment will be placed there, if there is any accumulated sediment, on the up-gradient side of the silt fence. Any additional silt fence that remains will be removed entirely. And that means outside of the wetland buffer, placed in an upland area, or removed from the site in its entirety. Afterwards, this is in a wooded area. So we're not like putting lawn or anything there. We're just going to put shredded hardwood bark mulch there to a depth of about 3 inches. It'll eventually get covered with leaf litter anyways, because it's in a wooded area.
Yep.
And that's the procedure for removing the silt fence. So that's what we're here for, is the disturbance. So the wetland permit is for the disturbance of the wetland buffer area from the installation of the silt fence.
Right, and I remember you guys were here before
Correct.
on this conversation, so.
Correct. And I believe there was a question whether or not everything had arrived or was submitted.
Yeah.
I do know that I sent it via Federal Express. It was signed, that was done on July 10th,
Okay,
and it
so,
was signed here on July 12th. Once it penetrates the building, I'm never sure where it goes.
the building does a good job, so let's just, again, you're similar to the previous application. We weren't here to agree or disagree with the application. We're here to see if the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed.
Yes, so Mr. Chairman, this is an interesting application. The violation has been done. The applicant could have corrected it by removing the silt fence. Our concern is that that would have been more impactful than leaving it where it is and giving them permission to keep it where it is. So now they have double the silt protection. The impact of violating the buffers already occurred. So this is simply a modification to the original plan. It's record keeping, so that we have a record of what's being approved on the site.
Right.
So there's no issue moving this to public hearing.
Okay, so I'll just ask for academic purposes, any questions or comments from board members?
I have a question. It appears that this occurred due to lack of proper construction supervision. What will be done to ensure that when the silt fence is removed, that it's done correctly? Are you relying solely on the contractor to do it, or will there be supervision provided to ensure that it's done correctly?
Well, I'd be more than happy to be as project engineer, to be one who will supervise it and inspect it during the time it's done. Usually it's done just by the contractor, unless happens to be someone from the town, but it could certainly be inspected by me at the time it's removed to ensure that it's done correctly.
And town staff does too.
And Walter, the reason they're here is to ensure this got their attention. This could have been handled through the building department probably, but this is
Yep.
being brought to you to make sure Alan and his client are fully aware of the process in the town.
Yeah, and the CIC, I think, has reviewed this, and wetland consultant, which we don't really, we're in a little bit of a funny period with that right now. But okay, so any other questions, Walter?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Any other questions to the rest of the board?
No.
I think we've dotted the i's, across the t's, and we're ready to bring this to the public. So let's hear what the board thinks.
This goes to a public hearing? I'll make a motion, we move this to a public hearing.
Motion from Joan,
Second.
second from Jane. Walter,
Aye.
Jane, John,
Aye.
and an I from Joan.
I'm sorry.
I'm assuming.
To remove the silt fence, we need to go to public hearing.
To grant the wetland permit. Also, when this was before you, there was a neighbor that was involved in this application, so it's appropriate to let them know. it's
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so motion carried. We have a public hearing scheduled, so you'll come back when you come back, and we'll go through that effort of having a public hearing.
If I may, will that be on the 6th? Is that the date? For the
It's going to
public
be a very busy night, so I'm going to leave that to Caroline to.
Okay.
We should put both of the applications together, and I've learned not to be the scheduler of public hearings because we have a lot going on in this
No,
town.
that's fine.
So we have a threshold of what we can and cannot do on any given night.
I know what that can be like, believe me.
So,
Don't call us, we'll call you.
all right.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
Carolyn will do her magic. And
Caroline
she'll-
is the
she'll
Wizard
let
of
me know.
Oz.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much. All right, guys.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion from John,
Second.
second from Joan, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? If you're opposed, then you can stay.
So there's another tree guy for you.
So for the 5th or 6th, that day, just make every effort, everybody to come, because that's going to be a big night.
Is that a Thursday?